What's up, tribe? How you guys doing? This is going to be Fix Your Life, Tamar, Season 1, Episode... What are we on? 4, 5? Listen. So we start off with David having the conversation with Goldie, and he is really just like beating her up over this whole God thing. Where's the God? Where's the God? Can you show me the book in the Bible? Because when people like Tamar dream so vividly, and that is a spiritual thing, that your dreams are spiritual, and I just need to know where the God is. I'm from Africa. And people from Africa, I just need to know. I need to understand. I think I have a right to understand. I think I have a right to know how this is working. And if you can't connect it to God for me, then I'm just not comfortable with that. And Goldie is trying her best, honey, and he's talking her into circles, talking about something. Well, do you? And she was like, well, I interpret dreams. He was like, you interpret dreams? Are you, he said, people can put things in your head to make you think one thing. And like the Tyler Perry dream, you told her it meant this, but it could really mean this. And she was like, well, I don't interpret, I guide. But then she messed around and used the word interpret. So he was like, well, do you interpret or do you guide? Do you interpret or do you guide? And it was a lot, and I felt bad for Goldie. And if I was Goldie, I just would have quit. Like, I would have quit. I'm not doing this. I'm not dealing with you. I'm here for you. I'm not here for you and him. And if he has a problem with the work, then that's a problem he needs to take. That's a conversation he needs to have with her, not with Goldie. But I definitely see that he feels like, because him and Tamar are in a relationship, that he has a right to every aspect of her life. Just like the situation with him saying Vince can't be on the show or I can't be on the show. Just like him saying, I don't want Vince in my house. And even the house that Tamar is living in by herself, he don't want her in that house. And I'm like, he doesn't want Vince in that house. And I'm like, but they're co-parenting. Like, they got a whole child together. Mind you, he was playing this game where he was making her wait for him to begin with, because he's in there playing with Logan. And Tamar's like, it's Logan's bedtime. Like, I'm going to need you. It's Logan's bedtime. Like, what are you doing? So he finally went up to talk to her. And then he leaves to go finish playing with Logan. Mind you, after Tamar had already told him it's Logan's bedtime. Like, why are y'all playing? Like, you need to be putting Logan to bed. And Tamar is just looking over it. She is just looking over the whole thing, and she brought up the thing about twerking. She said, well, where's the God? And Tamar sitting on stage twerking. Like, you are real selective and when you need to find God. And Tamar was like, ain't no God in twerking. It just is what it is. And God love me and I love him. And just because I twerk don't mean nothing. And I'm like, well, that's what you need to be going to say, David. Go tell David that, because David is the one that seems to have a problem with the dream interpretation, but don't seem to have a problem with premarital sex, don't seem to have a problem with alcohol, don't seem to have a problem with profanity, don't seem to have a problem with you twerking on stage. Like, that, he the one you need to go talk to about his selective Christianity. And let's be clear, I think most of us fall short, depending on the tenets, because we're human. So I'm not saying that like I'm perfect either, because I'm not. I do a lot of things that I know I shouldn't be doing. But for him to pick and choose and make such a big issue out of it, like such a big issue out of it, I am just exhausted. I'm exhausted for Tamar. I'm exhausted for the production company. And I said last week, and I'm going to keep saying, they should have just pulled the plug on this damn show, because it is a shit show. There is so much unnecessary here, and I don't think this show served anybody. I don't even think it served the network, but maybe because the ratings I'm sure are high with everything that surrounded the show. I'm sure the ratings are through the roof, but it's just a lot. It's just a lot. So next thing we see is Tamar meeting with a friend of hers that that has a healthy food company, and and so Tamar is thinking about partnering with him to do a tea, one of those like slim. That's what it sounds like to me, like the flat tummy teas or the slim teas or whatever. and she's talking about how she wants to lose weight, and get ready for her show in Atlanta, and and then and they were just talking about it, but they wasn't really talking about nothing. But anyway, they made it seem like she was about to go into a business venture with him, but then she was talking about what she needed. I didn't hear her really talking about the tea too much. But then I did hear her talk a little bit about the tea. But anyway, it was all over the place. But it was what it was. I guess it was just something for them to film because they said that they hadn't been filming in a while. So I guess that was just something for them to film, child. So she's getting ready for, she's still hosting David's party where his family is from Nigeria. And it looks like the theme is like the roaring 20s. So she's getting her dress together, and she's like, it's a little too sexy, it's a little too revealing, for his family, might be a little bit much for them, so let me kind of tone it down. We see her with her, with her, with her staff, whatever, basically talking to them, and she starts talking about, rings and how, she gonna look so good that he better get on his knee and wedding rings and stuff. And I'm like, but you just got finished saying you don't want to be married. I mean, you said you wanted to be engaged, but you don't want to be married. But now you're worried about him proposing and how good you gonna look and how he need to get on his knee. And I'm just like, girl. And she even said that she bought some rings, I'm sure like imitation rings, for what she wanted her ring to look like. I'm sure you did not buy the ring you wanted him to buy you. I'm sure you bought a nice little markup. I mean, hell, you might just have the picture, child. I don't know. And I'm guessing that his birthday party is going to be the climax of this whole situation, because we done heard about this birthday party for the last 2-3 episodes. So I guess it's going to be like the climax of it. But anyway, then we see her travel to Atlanta to open up for Todrick Hall. We saw that in the last episode, him asking her to do it, and her asking if it was okay if she bring the cameras, or her baggage as she calls them. And he was like, sure, no problem. So she's opening up for him, and we see her, and she is so impressed with Todrick Hall's whole setup and his whole thing. And I think it was good for her to see it, because Todrick Hall doesn't have management. He doesn't have a record label. He doesn't have, a lot of those things. He doesn't have a team per se. Yet he's got this whole production going, and she was so impressed with the setup and so impressed with everything. And she said, I don't have a record label and I don't have management either. And she said, you never realize how raggedy your stuff is until you see somebody else's. And so I think it might be a good thing, because I think she's at a place where she might feel like, I can't do this without a team. I can't do this without help. And you realize that, no, he's doing all of this. And I'm sure he has people helping him. That's not what I'm saying. But he doesn't have this huge team that she used to have behind her, this huge machine. And it can still be done. And it can still be done well. And it can still look nice. And you can still do your thing. So I think that was a good thing for her to see. And so we see her going through sound check and going through all of that situation. And I found it interesting. And I don't want to open up no Pandora's box, because I don't personally ascribe to this mindset. I'm just throwing it out there to see if anybody else was thinking what I was thinking. You didn't have no problems with Todrick Hall and your Christianity. You didn't have no problems with Todrick Hall and all that Todrick Hall does and your Christianity. That wasn't an issue, because you was at the concert. You stayed for the whole concert. Now, I mean, he didn't seem to be having as much fun as Tamar was having, but I think he was in a funky mood. But I mean, okay. All right then. Whatever. He ain't speak to Goldie. Goldie ain't speak to him the whole night. They just had a lot of tension. He was sitting there with an attitude, and they were just not speaking the whole night, right? So later on, Goldie is trying to talk to Tamar, and now it's Goldie, Tamar, and David. And David is sitting there with these sunglasses on his phone, but he in it. And he even said, well, I feel like, she's going to be working with Tamar. She need to be working with me too, because, I'm a part of this. And I'm like, but it's not about you. And you don't need to be there. Like, you really can just go somewhere and mind your business, because this is not about you. This don't have nothing to do with you. This is not your situation. Sir, go sit down. But of course, he couldn't do that. And so Goldie said something about the price of the production, and she was saying, she said something to Tamar about, well, how can you do something like that with no money? Now, first of all, I sort of have mixed feelings on that, because I feel like there's a part of me that feels like, I don't know if Goldie need to be discussing Tamar's finances, but then there's a part of me that's like, maybe that is something that has come up in another session and she's referencing it. And we just don't know that, and neither does David. But David was quick to let her know, don't you worry about money. You don't have to worry about money. You don't need to be discussing money. And he had a real attitude about it, and Tamar was like, that's my rich boyfriend. That's my rich boyfriend talking. And in my mind, I'm like, you're reverting right back to what you said you didn't want to do, which is lean into another person, i.e. another man taking care of you. Because again, if it's your show, your finances, your situation, then then you shouldn't be leaning on David's money. Like, that shouldn't be a part of this conversation. But I saw both sides of that one. And that one I saw both sides of, because, if I'm David, I don't need you talking about my girl's finances either. Like, that's my situation to deal with one way or the other. But it made me think that that's a conversation her and Goldie have had, because it was odd for it to just come out of nowhere. I feel like that's a conversation that's been had. That's how I feel. Anyway. So then Tamar reaches out to Goldie to meet with her so they can discuss the tension between her and David and try to come to some sort of, I guess, consensus, conclusion, whatever, about the whole David situation. And it was weird because Goldie, they were at a restaurant together, but Goldie was in a different part of the restaurant while Tamar was on the phone and eating with her assistant in another part of the restaurant. And I was like, and I thought that was very rude and disrespectful that you have Goldie sitting and waiting for you while you are on the phone. And then, like, okay, maybe you had to make some business calls. I'll give you that. But then once you got off the phone, you proceeded to continue to eat and even ordered more food. I was like, that's rude. And Goldie even said that was rude, but she said, well, I'm willing to wait. I want to wait so I can, clear this up with Tamar. Like, I really love Tamar, right? And Goldie was being a little weird. At one point, she was telling Tamar how beautiful she was, and you're the most beautiful woman in the whole wide world. You're so beautiful. You're so beautiful. You're so beautiful. I was like, girl, that's a bit much, Goldie, I think. So they get down to meet, and basically Tamar was like, listen, you working with me. You're not working with David. I'm sorry that David made you feel that way. I'm sorry that he came at you that way and questioned you the way he did. And I should have stopped it. I shouldn't have allowed it to go there. And, that's what I used to do in my past. And I'm trying to not be that person anymore, because this is about me. This is something that I'm doing for me. And this is about me. And it doesn't have anything to do with him. And he's just going to have to deal with it, because I don't care if you're a witch or not. You're helping me. And I grew up with the Bible. I grew up with Christianity. My dad was a pastor, so I get all of that. But listen, it don't bother me. So if it don't bother me, then it doesn't matter. You're working with me. And Goldie was like, okay. And she kept trying to, I feel like every time Goldie tried to go down the path of David's not good for you, because I feel like Goldie was trying to tell her point blank, like, David is not good for you. Like, this is not the answer. David is not the one. She would cut her off and be like, I love David. I love David. Me and David have this special connection. David is my man. David is the one. And I was like, because you know what she's trying to say to you. She's trying to let you know that he ain't the one. Which you know now. So, I don't know, y'all. I don't really have a whole lot. I'm starting to really get burnt out with this, because I feel like I'm saying the same thing every week. This whole situation with David. Like, I realize now that a lot of what was leaked wasn't a lie. I understand why Tamar didn't want this show to come out. I understand why David didn't want this show to come out. I understand, that David feels like he was betrayed a certain way, because that's how I feel like, whether it's true or not. Because I don't know whether it's true or not, but it sure looked like it's true to me. But that's what I'm getting. That's what I'm getting. So, listen. Y'all let me know what y'all think. Put in them comments, because I just don't have a whole lot. I ain't got a whole lot. I don't know.